Welcome to the InfoWars Nightly News. It's Friday, August 15th, 2014, and I'm Leanne McAdoo. Here's what's coming up tonight.
Tonight, Ferguson cops say Brown robbed a store before being killed, then admitted had nothing to do with why he was stopped. And the SWAT team was just helping the media relocate safely.
This is media over here trying to cover the story.
We come in peace. We come in peace.
All that and more on tonight's InfoWars Nightly News.
Guys, shooting at me!
Well, during a news press conference today, the Ferguson Police Department released what they say are video images of Michael Brown engaged in a robbery right before he was killed. Now, this accusation was made as police finally released the name of the officer who was involved in the incident, Darren Wilson. Now, it's quite curious as to why they would release this report, retroactively fitting it to fit this whole scenario of Michael Brown being shot. It's basically to say, look, he deserved it. He deserved to be shot because even though it had nothing to do with why the police pulled him over, earlier in the day, he stole a box of Swisher Sweets. So basically trying to justify this insane amount of militarized police and police presence and shutting down this entire town. Now, even from the original reports, cops say they confronted Brown over standing in the middle of the street. That came directly from the police chief. The police this entire time never released a probable cause for stopping Brown. Of course, you know, this is known in the hood as racial profiling. So here the cops now come back out and say, see, he was doing something after all. It's this huge PSYOP to basically try and justify for the world now who is watching this scene unfold, to justify a PSYOP to say, this is why we need this militarized police force. But even if he did rob a store for a $50 box of Swisher Sweets, that does not justify his execution. This is America. He deserves due process of the law. Now, and at the point when Michael Brown or anyone puts their hands up and surrenders and says, please stop, don't shoot, I'm unarmed, and starts running away, the cops cannot just fire upon citizens willy-nilly into the neighborhood. What if children had been there? What if the bullet had gone through a car and hit an innocent civilian? We can't allow cops to have these rules of engagement. Here in Ferguson, Brown allegedly stole a box of cigars. Earlier this month, we reported on how a man was put in a chokehold to death by the NYPD because they said that he was selling individual cigarettes. Okay, so when does it end? When does petty theft or selling, a cigarette one at a time, when does that justify this huge, heavy hand by the police? Even CNN thinks it's a little bizarre, although they are kind of running with the narrative of the protesters were violent, so the police responded. Of course, we were there documenting the entire time. That's not really how things went down. But just as the protesters have said, at this point, it has surpassed Michael Brown. This was basically a filter of rage that was bubbling up within the community after years of abuse by the Ferguson police there. The world was watching, journalists were there, and we saw how they reacted. So what do you think they're doing to these people on a daily basis? I mean, that's really goes to show, how these people are feeling. And again, the images that they released had nothing to do with the initial shooting. It doesn't justify why the police were so heavy in their presence, and it definitely does not justify them tear gassing journalists and innocent protesters. We saw the video footage of them firing tear gas canisters at Al Jazeera, arresting journalists inside McDonald's. We have the footage of the SWAT team telling people to turn off their cameras, cops deliberately throwing flashbang grenades, tear gas, rubber bullets were fired at our reporters. And of course, the police come out later and they say that it's not the attack on the press that it appeared to be. They were actually helping these guys take down their camera footage. They were actually helping the Al Jazeera news crew. The St. Charles County Sheriff's Department, which operates the SWAT team, said it was not the agency that fired the tear gas Wednesday night, but confirmed that it took down the abandoned lighting equipment because it made it difficult for officers to see. They couldn't see who they were inadvertently firing all these rubber bullets upon. Now, the department's lieutenant said that the SWAT team later helped the reporters out of the area and reunited them with their equipment. They just want to paint themselves as just being so helpful. They were just protecting their equipment and protecting their First Amendment right. Now, he went on to say that I'm sure that when they did deploy, they were unaware that the media were there and that adding those bright lights hindered their visibility in an already confusing situation. Well, of course, this official report from the police absolutely contradicts the video footage as well as the statements released by Al Jazeera. Let's go ahead and read these official statements by Al Jazeera. They said last night at 9:30 in Ferguson, Missouri, an Al Jazeera American news crew was reporting behind police barricades, and they did say it was about a mile down the way from where the protests were taking place. They were easily identifiable as a working television crew. As they were setting up their camera for a live report, tear gas canisters landed in their proximity, and police fired rubber bullets in their direction. Police continued to shoot after crew members clearly and repeatedly shouted, "Press!" Al Jazeera America is stunned by this egregious assault on freedom of the press that was clearly intended to have a chilling effect on our ability to cover this important story. So it doesn't really sound like they were being very thankful that they had tear gas canisters fired upon them, as well as it doesn't sound like the police said they were just moving their equipment so they could continue their coverage. And also, a little more detailed into this, they interviewed further the Al Jazeera reporters, and they said, "We were fired at from a police MRAP vehicle." And he added that his crew fled and sought shelter between houses, and eventually a separate MRAP, which was apparently this one from the St. Charles SWAT team, pulls up. And as that vehicle came close, we yelled out to the MRAP that we were press, and we approached the vehicle with hands visible. They opened the back of the vehicle and ordered us inside. And while the doors were open and we were outside, I do recall seeing SWAT-type firearms pointed at us. We were helped aboard and then taken back to our vehicle. So here, this is how they are treating the press. People who are clearly press, they've already presented themselves as press. Do they not have any idea about how this is going to get back to the rest of the world? But here, again, now because this press has gotten out, because they have made such a bad show of force there in Ferguson, they now have to go with this huge PSYOP of saying, here, you see, Michael Brown, he deserved it because he stole some Swisher Sweets earlier in their day, and that justifies our actions that we have continued to roll out. Now, the cops, of course, want to roll this out, shoplifting, to its assassination of character. It's a tried and true tactic. And now here is the footage you haven't seen. It's been shot exclusively by Infowars.com. Jakari Jackson was there behind the lines with these Al Jazeera reporters. And this footage, it's not from across the street where you see all this taking place. It's right there, and you can clearly hear this interaction between Al Jazeera and the police.
This is press over here! Shooting us! What's bullets?
Wow, are you still on?
Yeah, this is media over here trying to cover the story! Hello? Yeah, well, we're getting shot at with rubber bullets right now, okay? So I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah! That's a rubber bullet, bro. They've been shooting them at everybody.
I mean, as of right now, we're okay until they started shooting rubber bullets in our direction. So people hovering around us.
Whoa, they threw it at the news! Well, I'm news too, but you know what I'm talking about.
We can't go. We're moving. We're moving. Usher! Get Usher!
All right. Look, so they did it to the new media too.
Usher!
You got hit, bro? Hey, who do you guys work for?
What were Al Jazeera America?
Al Jazeera America. So they popped smoke at Al Jazeera America.
Did you get hit with a rubber bullet? They fired a rubber bullet at us, and then tear gas.
They tear gassed Al Jazeera America. So you see, it's not just Infowars.com. They're popping at anybody who's out here with a camera.
So again, that is clear that the police were suppressing the freedom of the press, suppressing people's First Amendment right to peaceably assemble. Their actions are not justified because of petty theft. And that's why there is this huge PSYOP now because of all the things that have taken place over the last few days. Now they want the media to spin this to justify the need for that huge military presence. CNN US writes on their website that the Ferguson police officer who shot Michael Brown didn't stop him because he was suspected in a recent robbery, but because he was walking down the middle of the street blocking traffic. Again, it was not related, and they ask, so why did Ferguson police decide to release surveillance video of the alleged convenience store robbery the same day that they named who the police officer was who fatally shot this teenager? These two incidents are not related. So there it is right there. The two incidents are not related. They're just trying to, make America say this is justified, but it's not. Petty theft does not justify an execution, and that's all there is to that. It does not justify the militarization of America's police, period. And now we have a former cop. It's not just you and I. It's not just Michael Brown. It's former cops, guys there, the boys in blue, even their colleagues who are being harassed if they decide to speak out about the abuse that's going on within their departments. This is a former cop who was arrested for exercising his First Amendment right. Michael Hoffman, he was arrested, denied medical aid, and had his camera stolen after he was staging an anti-TSA protest on public property in Jacksonville earlier this week. Now, he staged this protest half a mile away from the airport, and it was on the side of a public highway. His signs read, "Police State, Liars Investigating Liars, F the TSA, and IRS equals terrorist." Hoffman was very soon approached by a Jacksonville Aviation Authority police who said he was being trespassed off the property. Now, this is public property, mind you. And then 5 SUVs, including 2 that look similar to SWAT vehicles, take Hoffman, arrest him, 6 officers, all because he was holding signs. He was handcuffed, denied access to water and his diabetes medication, and then the police officers also confiscated his cameras for evidence, didn't take note of his cameras, and now, the cameras, they're nowhere to be found. And apparently they didn't document that they took them, and now they're just gone. So Hoffman is having to sue to try and get his cameras back. But this is the issue. The police are going to harass anyone who wants to stand up to their criminality. Now, Hoffman has been targeted before because he exposed the fact that the NSA documents proved that this particular police department there in Jacksonville was using Stingray cell phone tracking towers to illegally monitor cell phones in the area. So he was already on their radar. They already didn't like that he outed them. But he's also speaking out about jury nullification and teaching people in the town about how important jury nullification is. So, of course, he is going to be a huge target. He's awake. He's, trying to speak out, do something about it. He's a terrorist, right? He loves his country and he's trying to, stand up for this country and do what's right. He's a terrorist. People peacefully protesting on the side of the road, they are terrorists. But these cops who are becoming federalized and actively engaging in pointing their guns at journalists and aiming their beams at people who have their hands in the air and their backs turned to them, they're the good guys. And that's the huge PSYOP, is that we need to just accept that this is the new norm. You cannot protest here in America. You can't hold up your signs on the highway unless you're an illegal alien. Then you can go protest on the White House lawn during a government shutdown if you're an illegal alien. But other than that, you have no First Amendment rights here anymore. Now, coming up, Alex Jones sits down with Max Kaiser. Find out how these current economic sanctions against Russia are going to lead to the rise of cryptocurrency. And then Alex Jones has a very special report on chemtrails.
I began to get into iodine a few years ago because it was helping me and my family so much get healthy and detoxify. I believe our research is conclusive. This is the best iodine out there. And I know this for a fact. Nobody else has got iodine based on these pure crystals, ladies and gentlemen. For a limited time, experience the ancient power of Survival Shield X2. Take advantage of this unprecedented 30% off Super Detox Special at InfoWarsLife.com.